Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man, at your services. How are you all? Hope you're doing really, really well. Now, I've heard there's some trouble down on the reservations in New Mexico. Oh yeah, you've got some tribal rivalry. You've got some greedy whites moving in there because they found oil shale on a luxurious shelf in the middle of a canyon, a sacred canyon from the Maskai tribe on their reservation, and they want to move in there and take all that and defile the earth, the ecology. No, the Maskai don't like that. However, their neighbours, the Bahani, Navajo, they're kind of embracing that because their tribal leader is a forward thinker. He's now thinking, well, if we bring the Anglo in, we'll make money. It's going to bring jobs, prosperity, wealth to our peoples. This can only work in our favour. Let the tribes unite and let's do this together and we're all going to prosper. Makes sense. Does make sense. Bit of forward thinking. But then you have this whole thing about the sacred valleys, the sacred canyons, their beliefs, their customs of another tribe. Oh, heads are butting. But that isn't the main crux of the matter. Oh no, 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 no. Because in 1979's great eco-horror Western-gothic, Nightwing, you've also got a hold of millions and millions of bubonic plague carrying bats who happen to be right in the heart of that sacred canyon. And these guys, a bit like my little friends here, my batty mates here, are going out and slaying sheep, cattle, horses, and the odd person now and again, and leaving them bled dry, mysterious mutilated corpses across the desert mesa. And into this milieu, this craziness, you find young man Duran, played by Nick Mancuso. And young man Duran is the Maskai Indian deputy. He's basically the one bit of law in this huge reservation for the Maskai tribe. And these are the guys who want to keep this place preserved. They don't want the white man in there messing around and destroying their gods, their beliefs, and corrupting the land. They're very, very heavily set in their ways. However, Bahani, the Navajo, under Walker Chi, played by Stephen Macht. Stephen Macht, who's awesome. You know him from many, many TV shows. Very familiar face. He is the forward-thinking Indian. I studied, I went to their schools, I went and learned, and I got their doctorates and their PhDs. I give talks for them. I want to prove that the Indian isn't just there to get drunk and to make little dolls for tourists. No, we can do what they can do, and more besides. He is thinking outside the box, whereas the more insular, more traditional, stuck in their ways, Maskai, just don't embrace that. And also into this mix, you've got Abner. Abner is an old, elder, wise man, magician, shaman from the Maskai tribe. And he and young man Duran, played by Nick Mancuso, he's uncle to Nick Mancuso's deputy. And he says to him, I'm going to die tonight. Tonight is a good night to die. I know that's not a very Indian accent, but hey, you know, I've got the feathers in, but I might not be able to do the voice, you know. And he says, I'm going to die tonight, but he makes a prophecy, and he draws, of course, in all the coloured sands that they use in his little shack, his little tin pot shack, and there's a prophecy there. I'm going to die tonight, but I'm also going to kill the world. And like young man Duran, Nick Mancuso, who's his nephew, and loves him. And he's like, but knows that this guy's, he's got a reputation of being a wild card. He scares off tourists. He's a traditionalist, obviously, but he's also a very rich, shaman that knows things beyond. He's in contact with the spirits all the time and with nature. So he respects his words, but also, you're an old guy now, you're set in your ways, you're scaring everybody off. I bring you lots and lots of alcohol, and I know you regularly take a bite out of the datura root, which leads to hallucinogenics and wild visions. But he's drawn this thing. It's the end of the world. I am going to bring about the end of the world. I'm going to stop this. Because Abner, the old guy, played by the great Native American George Cletucci, hates Anglo involvement in their land, obviously, and this is a thing which he has to stop. Our sacred canyon, our beliefs our people must survive. They must be able to continue. So I'm going to make the circle, and I'm going to open the circle, and I'm going to allow our great God, Yahweh, into the world, and he will destroy everybody. And like Duran, the deputy, is kind of like, look, Abner, you're always coming out with this superstitious crap. What are you doing now? Come on now, you're not going to die tonight, and you're scaring people. Just calm down. Let them come in and let them do this and do that. It doesn't harm anybody. No, they're coming in. The white man's going to invade. The white man's going to do this, going to do that, because the Peabody Mining Company. I know. The Peabody Mining Company. Doesn't it just sound like something like Scooby-Doo? And at the end of it, like they take the bat mask off this monstrous thing. Oh my God! It's Mr. Peabody, the head of the Peabody Mining Company. It was him all along. And I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you and those pesky kids and that damn dog of yours and all that kind of shit, like. But they are the ones who are going to industrialize and take over this entire region. So Abner doesn't like this. He's always fought against it. And now his prophecy is, I'm going to bring about the end of the world, says, Cletucci, who's fantastic as Abner. Long-haired, wise, and a bit like an old witch, but he is a tribal witch doctor. And Duran is like, no, what are you doing? No, don't. This can't happen. I will die tonight. There is a plague coming. There is something coming. Death is coming. All the ones who've helped the Anglo will die. All the Anglo will die. Everyone will die. You must join me, but I will die tonight. Don't fight against this. It's a prophecy. Anyway, Abner does die that night. Why? Because, as I said before, there is a cave in that canyon which is absolutely stuffed to the highest bloody rocky rafters with bats. With these buggers here, vampire bats. Vampire bats driven away from South America carrying bubonic plague up into New Mexico. And obviously if they can infect and multiply and drive themselves out into city areas, bubonic plague, big bad medicine, And this is a film from 1979, and Eureka in the UK have finally released it on Blu-ray. And as I said before, I found it very boring when I was a kid, but I now find it incredibly fascinating and an amazing little catalyst, because it really fits in with what's going on right now with quarantines and lockdowns and inoculations and vaccinations and viruses. These bats are carrying bubonic plague. I'll come on to more of this, because this film is based on a book by Martin Cruz Smith. And there is the book. There's the book that I bought back in 1979, the film tie-in version. The book came out in 77, 2 years before the film's released. And I read that book, only a young kid, but I was devouring books all the time. Like, and I was always drawn to things like that. Like, what does it say there? The terrifying bestseller, now a stunning film. I love these flash tags on books. And that particular sort of silhouetted landscape there drew me in. Darkness is theirs. Nightwing. And the film's poster, one of the many posters of the movie, I'm going to show you now. So long as the ring light doesn't disrupt it. Because I'm playing the soundtrack now. And the soundtrack to the album has, or the album to the soundtrack, has this gorgeous original artwork on it. And if you look there, it does look like a bat, with the 2 ears there, and there's the wings. Now, the opening scenes of Arthur Hiller's movie from 1979, it's a camera shot from a helicopter going through the canyons, the buttes, the ravines of New Mexico, all those prehistoric, weird machinations and formations of rock, and it flies through all these with the ochre-tinted, amber-tinted, weird landscape and sky. Awesome. And in one shot, you do see that. It flies between the two canyons, and in a distance, for a nanosecond, you do get this other little outcropping of rock, which is the 2 ears of the bat. And they luckily found that, and it really does seal the deal. You know, that's brilliant. It's brilliant. So, this is a Western Gothic, a neo-Western Gothic. In the 70s, you had a huge, massive, and I mean massive, upheaval. People were campaigning against ecology, the ruination of the ecology, the rape of Mother Nature. Going for oil, going for this, that and the other, just destroying the world, the natural world, destroying rainforests, oil spillages off the coast of America and on other places, causing massive, massive ecological disaster. Almost wiping out races of animals, you know. So there's a huge movement against this, coupled with the Red Movement. The Red Movement was Native Americans rising up and like, look, no, you took our land from us, you've done this, and then you've made movies out of us, and you've not only just completely demonized our history, but you've used white men to play us in movies, and you've redded them up. Not blacked them up, but redded them up. Give us parts in movies at the very least, but give us non-cliched parts. So like the likes of Chief Dan George was in movies. Many other people. From films beyond this, Wes Studi and others in Dances with Wolves and Last of the Mohicans would come in there and would stake their claim as being genuine epitomes of what the Native American really was in the context of the stories. And in Nightwing, this is what you get. And you get the tribal animosity between the Maskai and the Bahani Navajo. Let's call them Navajo. In the book, they're Navajo. And this film by Arthur Hiller is a very, very close adaptation of Martin Cruz Smith's book. Martin Cruz Smith, the author of this book, by the way, is part Pueblo Indian. So the book is steeped in tribal Native American folklore and custom and tradition. So, you know, you can't knock that. He knows his stuff. The film, Arthur Hiller, a strange director for a film like this. Arthur Hiller had done the likes of Love Story, Silver Streak, romantic comedies, See No Evil, Hear No Evil. He was not a guy known for horror movies whatsoever. So, but I think what drew him to this was the emotional content, the socio-political stance that it took, and it gave him some stuff to work with. What he produced, of course, and the film was, the screenplay was by 3 guys, but one of the 3 guys was Martin Cruz Smith, the guy that wrote this, who would go on to write Gorky Park, a great, celebrated, highly acclaimed detective thriller noir with a whole Russian setting, which is a great movie, great book. Apparently, no, I've actually never read Gorky Park. Confession time. If you confess something, Kilt-Man doth say, you must swig whiskey. I confess I had whiskey for breakfast. Oh no. That could go on. We won't do it just yet. But Arthur Hiller was not the guy you'd expect to do this kind of movie, but you can see why he may have been drawn to it. But Arthur Hiller's direction is very sort of flat, and the film does appear almost like a TV movie. It does, apart from the gorgeously cinematic landscape shots, the sweeping camera flybys, and the landscape is used. It's a cliche now to say, oh, they use the landscape as a character. Or if it's in a big gothic house or a castle, they use the structure as a character. But if you can do it successfully, then yeah, sing its praises. They use the landscape marvelously. You feel like you're out there, and it's wonderful. It's a mainly exterior shot movie, so you're getting the full flavour of these New Mexico locations, with a huge swathe of local residents who are participating in this movie. You've got a rain dance in there, a proper tribal rain dance. So they're all in the masks and the feathers, and they're giving it loads. And it's a great moment. Young man Duran, Nick Mancuso. Nick Mancuso is Italian, although he looks like a Native American. He's swarthy, he's grown his hair a little bit, but it's cut short. Unlike Cletucci, who plays Abner, the older wise man, the shaman, who has the long white hair. You know, Nick Mancuso's characterization is he's the bridge. He is the old world, and he supports and defends the old world. But he has made a few concessions. He's carrying a 6-gun of the white man. He's wearing the Stetson of the white man and the uniform and the badge of authority of a white man. But he's working within their environment. And all he's doing is giving out traffic tickets and like, you're a bit too drunk tonight. He's doing he, in many ways, even though he's the hero of the piece, he is just kind of like going along with what the people have always done. So he's part of the problem. Whereas Stephen Mack as Walker Chi, who has helicopters and goons and oil refineries and richeries, and he is really, you know, he's got all the trappings of glory, but he wants more. But he wants more because it's also, this is the great thing about it, he wants to better everybody. You can see why he's doing what he's doing. I want to let the white man in here and sell this land. Young man Duran, and your people, join me, join my tribe and sell your land, because we're all going to benefit. You can see his point of view. People make this whole thing about Nightwing is just Jaws with wings and just little teeth. Well, you can say that, and the film does end up with 3 people, you know, like Quint and Brody and Hooper in the boat facing the Great White. You will have Duran, you will have his girlfriend Ann Dillon, who is a white nurse, doctor, who's turned her back on like San Diego and California and all that, and wants to now work with the tribes on the Maskai reservation. But she's struggling because they don't get x-ray machines, they don't get access to clinics, and she's trying to, the first scene you've got, she's delivering a very, very troubled breech birth, but if she'd had all the equipment beforehand, which they should have, she'd have known it, and this whole thing could have been averted. And she's really, you know, at the ends of her tether, but she's a very resilient and forthright, strong-willed woman. And she is the girlfriend of young man Duran. So, you know, there's that little dynamic there. But into this, if you've got Brody and you've got Quint and Hooper, so you've got young man Duran and you've got Andil and the Doctor. Well, who's the Quint character? Well, this is where the whole bat thing comes in. Because yeah, this film's about bats. Now the reason why the bats have barely figured in what I've been saying so far is because in the film they barely figure in the movie until crucial elements. The film is really about the socio-political structure of these reservations and the white man's intrusion and basically the Western Wales destruction of ecology for its own ends. But you have, as playing the bat killer, Philip Payne, Englishman Philip Payne. You've got David Warner. David Warner! Yes! David Warner! One of my favourite character actors, my favourite genre icons. People go, he's just a ham British actor. Oh my God, he chooses words and like, oh, no. David Warner will ham things up when he knows the part is shit. And he will do it. There's plenty of cases of that. But when he's got something to put his teeth into, he's brilliant. You look at him in The Omen as Jennings, the photographer, who discovers that his own fate is in the hands of the Antichrist. You look at him in A Company of Wolves as the father. You look at him in Time Bandits. He's taking the piss as this demon god lord, of all time. Darkness, whatever he's called, can't remember now. He's in many movies and he's brilliant. Straw Dogs, for God's sake. He's a great actor. And in this, he gets cited as being hammy as hell. Pure gammon, And I disagree. I think the script doesn't do him any favours, but I think he gives conviction to the role, as do all the actors in this movie. They all do it brilliantly. So, your triumvirate at the end of the movie, you've got Philip Payne, who is this English bat killer, the Quint kind of character. You've got young man Duran, who is the Maskai tribal detective deputy. So he's Brody. And then people always say, oh, Anne Dillon must be she's the Hooper character. Bollocks. It's dead easy to go like, well, Jaws came out, so now all of a sudden a lot of eco-horrors came out, which they did. Grizzly, Prophecy, and many other frogs. Fucking many movies just brought animals, nature fighting back against man. We know this. But it's a terrific genre, it is. Prophecy. What film am I discussing again? Oh yeah. Nightwing. Nightwing doesn't really do that. It's very convenient for critics to go like, well, they just took off the whole Jaws theme. Because you've got Walker Chi, Stephen Matt, who's the Bahani Navajo tribal chieftain, who is the rich guy. He's got the helicopters, he's got the empowerment, the enforcers, the bodyguards. He's got all this kind of power. He's like Mayor Vaughn, Murray Hamilton in Jaws. He wants to keep everything, keep it on, all these deaths, keep that quiet. He hires Philip Payne, David Warner, to eradicate the bats. I'll give you 250,000. I can do it in 3 days. I'll give you more then. No, David Warner says, I don't want your money. What do you want then? I just want to kill bats. I just kill bats. That's what I live for. I kill bats. I don't want your money. Oh, okay. So people go like, well, like Quint, he's a zealot. He's driven by one thing, revenge against bats. Like Quint, revenge against sharks. But Quint, folks, remember, I'll catch him for 3. Oh, sorry, I'll find him for 3, but I'll catch him and kill him for 10,000, that is. So Quint wants money as well. So bullshit on that one. Philip Payne is a very different character. David Warner does play him as a very eccentric, obsessive, driven, bizarre character. He has the sort of, I mean, again, if you're going to make the Jaws connection, he has that moment where he will tell young man Duran why he goes after bats, because there's animosity amongst those two. Payne just wants to kill bats. He lives for it. That's all he's ever done. He hates them with a vengeance. He hates not bats, vampire bats. And it's through him that we learn about vampire bats and bubonic plague and its offshoot, pneumonic plague. Because what's happening, folks, is that the fleas on these particular bats are what spread the bubonic plague, which is a direct killer, a direct infection, whereas an offshoot of it is pneumonic plague. And pneumonic plague can be spread by coughing. So a human coughing on someone else. In this world of COVID, it's very sort of prescient. It actually has a big, strong connection to the way we are at the moment. So someone coughing in vicinity of someone else, you've spread pneumonic plague. In the great rain dance sequence, you've got the Maskai elders are underground because they're communing with the spirits. There's about 25 of them down there. Young man Duran says that, because he knows, look, Abner died. Abner made a prophecy, and he said he'd die that night, and he did. There's something going on. You guys are not acknowledging what's happening. Abner was a crazy man. Abner was this, Abner was that. I heard Abner was walking again the next day after he died, because Abner's grave is empty. Young man Duran, the nephew of Abner, buried him in a shroud, and as he buried him, blood poured out of the shroud. A vision hit young man Duran, Nick Mancuso, and then the next day he goes up there with the great Struther Martin from the Wild Bunch. Struther Martin, he's got a white and sweaty headband on. I've got 10 wives, I've got loads of Native American daughters. Duran, you need one of these, they'll never leave you. And they go up there to go and see the grave, and the grave of Abner is gone. And it's proven, and there's no footprints around it. Duran says, oh, grave diggers, or grave robbers never leave signs. But Struther Martin's going like, no, he was seen around town, there's nothing around here. He's out, he's around. We'll come on to that, because there's so much more to discuss here. So, I better refresh myself. It's at this point I normally forget what I was talking about. So, please remind me. What was it again? I can't hear you, sorry. So, you've got the body's gone missing. Duran has now encountered the staunch rivalry and the official sort of close down with Walker Chi. And this is the thing, Walker Chi is not trying to deny that there's bats out there and that there's bubonic plague, because those guys, the elders at the rain dance, who are down below in the little cave, who've been there for days, because what they do, sounds great, doesn't it? They're smoking pipes and drinking and all that. Sounds fucking wonderful, And but young man goes up there and he's like, no, have you heard from him at all? Things are happening. What have they said about it? Nothing, because they've been down there. I'm going to go down there. You can't go down there. That's against all the tribal regulations, and I don't care. I'm a deputy. I'm going down there. So he goes down, and in a great eerie sequence, he finds that they are all sitting there, and they're all dead, and they've been dead for some time, and they've been dead from pneumonic plague, not bubonic plague. And this is what I'm getting to, and this is what the book and the film do allude to. The bats have fleas on them, and the fleas are carrying bubonic plague. So that's how humans and other animals will get afflicted by bubonic plague. But the transmission rate of that is very, very slow. However, an offshoot of that, without fleas, is the pneumonic plague. These guys died of pneumonic plague. So all of a sudden, helicopters come in and the bodies are bagged up and ferried out. And like Stephen marked as Walker Chi, the other guy, the other Indian chieftain, and he's like, no, we've got to keep this quiet, we've got to keep it quiet. So people go, oh, that's Mayor Vaughan. He's Mayor Vaughan from Jaws. He wants to keep the deserts open. What? No, he does explain why he's doing it. You're going to bring in hundreds and hundreds of other quarantine teams, and you can quarantine certain areas, but you're just going to spread panic. So let's just look. I've got this guy who's going to kill the bats. He doesn't want his money, but he's going to kill the bats. He's an expert. I've got him. He's brilliant. Let's just use him. Let's work together. But of course, the bats are in. Yeah, remember that sacred canyon of Yahweh, the masked guy god. Oh, what are you going to do now? So David Warner's going to go in there and eradicate the bats. So, into this mix, you've also got a little bunch of missionaries. Oh, religion. You've not only got white greed, but you've got white religion encroaching upon all this. So you have these sort of evangelist Christians who go in there. One of whom is Charles Hallahan from The Thing. Charles Hallahan, whose head tears itself off from his body, sprouts little legs, and runs off like a little tentacled spider across the floor. You gotta be fucking kidding me. No. You've got him there. And they're out singing Kumbaya, my lord, and we will row the boat ashore. And in one of only several actual bat sequences in a film about bubonic plague carrying bats, they get attacked and destroyed. But they're not alone. They have Kathryn Harrold, who is Anne Dillon, the nurse that is in love with young man Duran. So when they all get killed and she drives off and the van crashes and she's stranded in the desert, young man realises that he's going to have to go out and go and rescue his bird. And folks, Kathryn Harrold, let's just stop for a second and appreciate the sheer gorgeousness of Kathryn Harrold. In many TV movies, in many TV shows, but you'd know her from this and you'd know her from Raw Deal with Arnold Schwarzenegger. One of Arnie's first big proper movies. And she is incredibly gorgeous. Fans of the site will know that I am a massive adorer of ex-Mrs. John Carpenter, Adrienne Barbeau. Well, if you changed Adrienne Barbeau's dark hair to a lighter, a more sort of blondish, sort of light brown coloured hair, but kept the face, that's Kathryn Harrold. And I have a friend called Laura Robinson. If you're out there, hon, I know sometimes you do watch. Kathryn Harrold is incredibly gorgeous and she looks just like you. Just like you. So, she goes out there, but she's not just the girlfriend in trouble, the dilemma. Vans crashed. She saved some people, but they subsequently died. And then she managed to spin the tyres, pour petrol on the tyres, set them ablaze, and then erect a structure to shelter in the desert. And Duran goes out there. His van, his police cruiser breaks down, and he runs across the desert. A bandana around his head, runs across the desert. He's about to keel over, and he meets David Warner, Philip Payne, a Philip Payne realises, yeah, I might need you. They go and find Kathryn Harrold and Dylan, and the three of them. In other words, as the critics always say, the Brody, Quint and Hooper, but they're so not. They're so not, folks. They learn from Philip Payne what vampire bats are and why his obsession with them really is. Well, in the film, you kind of don't learn his obsession. Philip Payne in the movie, David Warner is given these great lines, what they do. Why you smell ammonia around the bodies of the horses and the sheep and the cattle, and all the blood, the bites, their teeth go down to the bone, and they suck. They put in an anticoagulant, anesthetic. You don't even feel it. They're sucking the blood from you, and each one of these vampire bats can consume 3 times its own body weight in blood. So, to take off the ground afterwards, to fly, it must piss out the excess, and the excess blood becomes ammonia. That's why you smell ammonia around the bodies. That's why their caves can kill a man with the stench of all the sunk down pools of ammonia, of wasted blood. But why do you kill them? Payne, why are you after them? What is it you do? Why do you do this? They are quintessence of evil. Everything in nature gives something back to nature. Everything. Except for vampire bats. Vampire bats just take. They will swarm. They will kill cattle, sheep, children, anything. They will drain it. And they'll go back. They give nothing back to nature. The very piss is demonic. Actually, that last line, I added that, but it's kind of what he's getting at. And it's kind of a bit silly because it's one of the things where the film kind of falls down a little bit on. Although I think he's a great character, and David Warner, far against the allegations of hamming it up, I think he does really well. But in the book, that book there, folks, which the film does follow very, very, very well, he does have a real reason for doing this. Certainly a reason for going into New Mexico and pursuing these bats. Because he says in the movie and the book, look, I've been tracking these from South America, and I think they found a nest in your canyon here. Now, if they multiply and they go forth, they're going to get nearer to cities and more inhabited areas of man, and they'll destroy. They destroyed the Aztecs and the other people that are around there as well. Yes, you know the ones I mean. They're people, you know. And so you know they can eradicate a civilization because they can spread bubonic plague and then pneumonic plague as a succession. It'll destroy us all. It's a very worrying concept, without a doubt. But in the film, he does just come across as like, look, that they are just quintessentially evil, and I kill bats. That's what I do. There's nothing else. Nothing else is more important than that. And when Walker Chi, Stephen Mack, I'll pay you X amount of thousands of dollars. I don't want it. I'm not interested. I do it because I want to do it. Like, all right. Come on now. In the book, it's kind of given that he has been in South America and he's been tracking them down and destroying cave systems and colonies left, right and centre, and he thinks that he's driven them up. It's because of him that they've nested in New Mexico, so it's down to him. So the whole film culminates in our 3 heroes. They erect like a little wire mesh cage in the desert at the back of his Land Cruiser, and like when the bats come out, they've got some bait there, and he's got all his tracking equipment and all that. He's kind of like Quint stroke Hooper, I suppose. He's got the high-tech stuff, Plus he's got the savvy and the savage hunter mentality. And what he's going to do is like draw them in and put a tracker on one of them, and like when they go back to their roost, they can find them and then go and put cyanide gas in there and destroy them. So that's the idea. And one of the great sequences, you've got several great sequences. The attack on the evangelists who are all destroyed, one falls into a fire and gets burnt to death. One gets run over as well in a mad panic. And but you know, it's still tame compared to most other movies. And then you get this sequence where the bats attack this wire cage, and you've got Duran, you've got Kathryn Harrold, and you've got Payne in there as well. So they're all there. Sorry, I've got a huge thing on my screen right now telling me that something is going to happen very soon. I.e., my camera's going to diminish. But don't worry, I'll just resume very soon. So, you know, they're in their wire cage. Things are going to get very, very batty. See you soon. Folks, we're lucky to have, at this juncture in time, to have one of the advisors to Arthur Hiller's great 1979 eco-horror western neo-gothic horror movie, Nightwing. We've got one of the nocturnal bat advisors. We have here Bruce. So over to you, Bruce, with your recollections of working with Arthur Hiller.
Well, of course, Kilt-Man, I had a long history in the cinema. I'd worked with the great Bela Lugosi, of course. Yes, they dangled me from strings, they flew me through windows, they did all sorts to me. And then I worked with Christopher Lee. That was even better. They brought in more rubbery versions of myself. I found it so hilarious. And then, of course, Frank Langella and many other people portraying that bizarre, pointy-toothed Count from Transylvania, and I was always there to help him out, to lend a helping wing. Arthur Hiller approached me. I was a lot older, of course, in the late 70s, and now, of course, I just live on coffee and Viagra. But Arthur Hiller approached me and said, like, well, I would love you to act in an advisory capacity for this movie. I'm going to have hordes and hordes and hordes of vampire bats. And I said, of course, well, you know, vampire bats are, they're a different breed. I am just purely, you know, a very vegetarian, vegan almost bat. And blood is, I find, quite unsavoury, a little bit bitter, a little bit metallic, I find. He said, but you can train them to fly. You can give them some ideas on swoopage and all this kind of malarkey. Well, I said, okay. And then I met with the special effects man, which was Carlo Rambaldi. Yes, the Italian guy, Carlo Rambaldi. Yes, he did King Kong's hydraulic-y bits. He did E.T. He would do lots and lots of things. The White Buffalo for Charles Bronson, and lots of strange creatures he would do. And he would also fabricate a lot of mechanical, remote-controlled bats. People like me to fly around and hit the camera and swoop at the actors and nibble on little latex bits of neck and throat and do little incision bites. So I instructed on how to do this, and it was wonderful. But I'll tell you now, they were very strange to work with because they were so brutish. They were part machine, part leather, part fur. They were very, very strange. They were like little sort of bat-like Terminators. That's all I can say. So I did say to Arthur, I said one day, you know, well, I don't think I can work with these guys, but I'll tell you what, I'll be Bat. I'll be Bat. Arthur just went, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I went, well, whatever. You've just got to... Sometimes you just got to wing it, haven't you, folks?
And there we go. There is Bruce, who actually worked on set with Arthur Hiller on the Martin Cruz adaptation of his own novel, Nightwing, from 1979. My God, you're aging well, sir. So, we've just heard from Bruce, the technical bat advisor for the movie. And now, let's get back onto what was happening in that cage. We've got our three heroes there. We've got young man Duran, Nick Mancuso. We've got his girlfriend, the eternally gorgeous Kathryn Harrold, playing Anne Dillon. And we've got Philip Payne, David Warner, flying the flag for Great Britain, an English ham. No, he's better than that. He's way better than that. What you've got, as Bruce did tell us about, Carlo Rambaldi's effects for this movie. He creates a lot of mechanical bats, remote controlled, and in close-up, these are great. In fact, they are really, really good. Their faces, the animatronics in the faces, their teeth, their movements, they are great. They're great. What lets the film down is the primitive visual effects by Van der Veer. Van der Veer were a stalwart of 70s movies, and particularly like TV movies. So you've got animated bats in the background, the Batground, and they're doing figure of eights basically in the background, or just swarming. That can look great, but it can look really dismal, and it does look dismal a lot of the time in this, which is a bit of a letdown. But you've got to make concessions for the time the film was made and the budget the film had, and just, you know, at the time people were like, well, swarm of bats, and you've got the ones in the front that were giving it loads and coming in, and they're great. However, when Kathryn Harrold as Anne Dillon hears the sound, because they know they've got like echoplexes and radar and sonar, and well, that would be underwater, wouldn't it? But you know what I mean. All these electronic gizmos to know, like, the bats are coming now. Night's fallen, the bats are on the way, and they're at the mouth of the canyon, the sacred canyon. They know that they're going to be in there. So anyway, the bats all swarm, and they come straight to the first point of blood, which is these guys, and they're in this wire mesh cage, and it's electrified. But you've got like the little, you know, little capacitors, the little jump leads, plug them on, and a little battery, turn that, and you turn it on when I give the word, says Philip Payne, David Warner. But not before I say the word. A very Van Helsing, Peter Cushing moment. Not before I say the word. Okay, right, fine, no worries. So they've got some bait hanging outside the cage. So the idea is, and a bat gets on that and starts eating the bait, he's going to put a little tracer dart into it. So they're going to find exactly where the cave's going to be, go in there and cyanide their little batty asses right off. That's the plan. So the bats descend. Now, Kathryn, or rather Anne Dillon hears the noise. She goes, there's that sound again. And you hear this squeaking, squawking, and the swarming, and the en masse of bat wings, and it's pretty good. It's pretty suspenseful. And then the bats, you have a camera shot of, like, you're looking at our three heroes in this wire mesh cage, and you are the bats coming towards them, and the camera's going towards them, and then you see the bats come in, and the first like 3 or 4 are all these robotic, animatronic, you know, remote controlled bats, which look great, but the rest are just like animated, and you're like, oh shit. As I say, they do these figure 8 motions in the sky. When you've got the big clusters and these clouds of bats swarming in the film, they do these formations. Well, bats do, like birds fly in formations. They do. So it's not wrong that the film has done that. But in the movie itself, it does look very horribly animated and very just, they're all going through the same cycle. There's no individuality at all. But anyway, look, it is what it is. And the bat sequences in this movie are very, very brief. You know, it's a film about, well, is it about bubonic plague spreading bats? Kind of, but it's mainly about the socio-political angst that was going on in the 70s. That's the thing. That's the political red flag, literally red flag that's going on here. Using Cruz Smith's novel, which also does take all that on board as well, but the film really pushes that, you know, really in your face, going alongside things like Prophecy and Grizzly and Jaws and many, many other nature fighting back movies, but also going with the whole ecological, we must look after nature, we must look after Mother Earth. Rightly, completely rightly, of course. And I love the way it finds its way into these movies. Even like the likes of Dino De Laurentiis' remake of King Kong. King Kong is a pure, massive, you know, gut punch to corporate society about, you know, commercialism and greed and oil and raping Mother Earth. That's what it's about. Calder and Bowlby did the effects, the hydraulic effects for King Kong, and he's now doing the bats for this. So he had a bit of a thing about this, didn't he? Anyway, these bats come swarming in, and it's a very tense moment. We've already learned that they are the quintessence of evil. That's what they are. They give nothing back to nature. They just want to kill us. He is purely a Van Helsing kind of character, a pure overly zealot sort of guy. And he fires a little tracking dart into one of them, but one gets in. They're tearing apart the mesh, and one gets in, gets on his back. Young man Duran gets it off his back and stomps on it. Oh, get that. Throw the switch, just throw the switch. But the plugs, the little jump leads, the connectors have come off. She's like, oh shit, it's not working, it's not working. And the bats are tearing holes in the mesh and tearing it apart, and they're gonna get in. So they're getting their fingers nibbled and all that. And you got David Warner pulls out an automatic, and he's like, blam, 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 blam. She's got a great little last stand taking place, and it is exciting. It is. And then finally, throw the damn switch, which I've got to be honest, that's got to be a throwback to Elliot Silverstein's The Car, which is one of my favourite 70s horror, occult, bizarre, just pure evil action horror movies. The Car. I have reviewed it. James Brolin, and at the end, when the devil's own sedan has destroyed this whole, is it New Mexico again? I think it is New Mexico. Oh, no, it's Utah. It's Utah. Destroyed lots of residents, and they finally managed to trap it in a canyon and send it over the edge of this sort of, you know, massive canyon cliff face, and they've got all dynamite down there, and they're trying to, you know, do the plunger, and James Brolin's going like, throw the damn switch. And like Nightwing has the exact same moments in this sequence. Throw the damn switch. And then finally they do. And all the bats who are against the mesh go, get fried and they're stuck there. And loads just fall to their deaths. But they've got a tracker on it. So now they know what cave they're in. So Philip Payne, David Warner, does that thing. Well, like, okay, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to find it. I know it's your sacred ground, but I'm going to go out there. I know what to do. I've done this before. I've got the gas, I've got the canisters. I'm going to lower them into the cave. I'll find, there'll be a little, you know, there'll be a sinkhole in the top, which they get out of. That's how they roost beneath it, and they fly out and they come back in that way. No worries. So, off he goes, and he does all this. So he gets his wire mesh out there, and obviously there's a time limit. You've got to do this before, you know, the sun goes down. And the dickhead, Quint didn't fuck up like this. So the dickhead actually gets snared up in it and falls down the bloody sinkhole and gets his wrist caught in the rope, and he's now hanging there like that, with a gazillion bats roosting but waking up all the way around him. So Duran and Dylan realise, shit, something's going on here. They find another way into the cave, because this is the sacred cave of the Maskai tribe. And all throughout this, you've had the whole premonition and prophecy of Abner, George Clutisi, who was a genuine Native American and an activist as well. So he gives some vigour to what he's been saying. And we know he died the night he prophesied. We know that he is out of the grave and there's no footsteps around the grave, so no grave robbing took place. He's out and he's been seen. But it's very, very great and telling that every single time, because we do see him, he appears in visions to Duran. Boy, don't close the circle. This is what Yahweh wants. We must end the world. Our people will go below ground and will resurface again when everyone else is dead. He means the Peabody Mining Company. He means all the Indians who've gone in league with him. He means all the whites who've invaded their land. It's brilliant. That's exactly the sort of prophecy that he would reenact and try to bring about. And he believes it. And he does appear to have come back from the grave to reenact this prophecy. And everything's come true. But Arthur Hiller and Martin Cruz's novel always seem to dovetail on the taking a bite out of the Datura root. The Datura root, like mandrake, like oh god, what's it called? Absinthe, like wormwood, not woodworm. Woodworm's different. Woodworm destroys your foundations. Wormwood destroys the foundations of your brain. You will have hallucinations, visions, and of course the Native Americans used that in moderation to have visions, and their visions were very spiritual and it formed part of their beliefs. So what they saw in these visions, they would believe. Medical science would now say that the Datura root, no, don't touch that. It can actually be toxic, it's poisonous. But you will see Abner and Abner, the old guy who does get killed by the bats, as he prophesied, but then opens the circle to let the old god come in, Yahweh come in and destroy all the world, so all their tribe can come below ground. Everything's coming true. Everything he said's coming true. And here's the crux of it. Duran sees him several times, but only after he's found Datura root, and thinks, with music like this, that's Abner's theme. I'll take a bite out of this. And then he'll see Abner on the rocks. Boy! Here, boy! A bit like Shades of the Tall Man from Phantasm. Boy! And he's like saying, Don't close the circle, boy. Don't fight me. You know this is true. No, but Abner, you're killing other people. We must stop this. I must fight you. But his mind is being opened. Datura in the Indian culture is opening the mind to other possibilities, to other truths. It's not being used as a hallucinogen and maybe just a mind warping, mind altering device. So it works in that capacity as well. So when they go into the cave, he and Kathryn Harrold, playing Ann Dillon, will find another way into the cave where poor Philip Payne is hanging with all the bats waking up around him. Oh shit! And below him is a pool of bat piss. Remember what I said about bat piss is? The vampire bats drink 3 times their body weight in blood, and then because they can't take off too fat. I've been there. I've been in the boozer and I've drunk several bottles of this, and I can barely get off the floor to get another bottle. Luckily, someone always passes me one. But so the bats then piss it all out, and that piss is ammonia, which is very poisonous itself. So there's pools of ammonia, and if he drops it, he's hanging above one. If he drops into it, he's gonna die. So Duran and Dylan get in there with a torch and find him, and they're saying, swing that way, and use your knife. And when I say cut, you'll land on the soft sand. But Duran has had a bite de Tora, and he sees the Pueblo caves inside this cavern where a lot of the native Meskai tribe lived, in all these sandstone caves. There they are, and he sees the visions. He sees Abner standing there waving to him. He sees the image of the prophecy that he saw initially in Abner's shack. So it's all coming true. In the end, in the book, Philip Payne dies. They don't find his body. They find the severed rope, which has been ripped through by razor teeth. So they know the bats have got him. And in the book, that's what happens. The bat, he does fall through this sinkhole in the top of the cave, and he hangs there, and he knows he's going to die. And the bats are all waking up around him. But the book doesn't describe his death, and they know. And in the book itself, young man Duran praises him over the radio to say, look, no, it's him that found them, it's him that killed them. So, you know, he gives him like a hero send-off. It's down to him, it's down to Payne that did it. Film's slightly different because Payne survives. He swings off, lands on the deck, boom. The bats wake up, but Duran sees the vision and realises, hang on, this is where the shale is, the shale oil. The walls are coated in this shale oil rock. So he gets his axe and begins to hack the walls down and gets chunks of these ebony, oil coated rock, and he makes a circle. And like, you've got the vision of Abner saying, don't close the circle, boy. Yahweh's out. The circle's open, their God Yahweh comes out and brings their tribe back in, makes them underground, so they can survive while the apocalypse takes place above ground, and they can come out and reclaim their land. But that's Abner's vision. But Durant's like, no, people are dying. We're going to have quarantines. We're going to have epidemics. We're going to have a pandemic. We can't afford this. So I'm going to have to stop it. So he starts chipping away the rocks, and he forms a circle. But in the meantime, the bats have woken up. So poor David Warner's lying there. His back's broken, his legs are done in, and the bats are fucking nibbling on his face. He's like, and poor old Kathryn Harrold again is getting bitten. She's like, bats in the hair and all this. And like, precious time is taken up with Duran, just seeing these visions and arguing with his uncle. No, I must do it. I must fight you. I must stop this. I must close the circle. Finally he does. The next block goes in, sets fire to it. It's oil. Up it goes. Sets off an incendiary chain reaction. Boom! The whole fucking cave goes up. Lots of animated bats flying around on fire. Carlo Rambaldi's robotic ones are incinerated and dropped down. But you've got these little, like that, in figure eights on fire. Little black animated effigies. And it is an exciting sort of climax. And they pick up Payne's body, you get him out, and they all survive. And the film culminates in, I would say, a very trite climax, because the entire canyon has now become a wall of fire. So Durant realizes, look, Abner, you won. You said it would be the end of the world if they destroyed our sacred caverns, our sacred caves, our canyon. You brought about the bats, you summoned them, they're here, and the circle had fire, it had me running. I've done that, I've closed the circle, and now there's a wall of fire which will burn forever, because it's all this shale, it'll burn forever. They can never use this now. So you've won, and they've all survived, and that's the end of the film. The book's slightly different because in the book, again, he gives like a hero send-off to Payne, who dies in the book. And in the book as well, Payne, when they all meet up together, him, Duran, and Dylan, and they know that the bats are in that vicinity. This is just before they set up that little cage thing. He's on the phone to Walker Chi, Stephen Macht, and he's in league, or rather, Stephen Macht, Walker Chi, thinks he's in league with Payne, but Payne is just in it for himself, just to kill bats, because he just lives to kill bats, because bats are evil. They must be destroyed. They give nothing back. So, and he's saying, where are you? Where are you? So he gives the wrong location. So he sends Walker Chi and all, because Walker Chi's got so much money and wealth and armaments and firepower. So they fly out in a convoy, an armada of helicopters to the wrong place. But you never see them again. You never see what happens to them. In the book, what Philip Payne has done, he sent them to another canyon where there's millions of normal bats, just normal bats, who are going to come out at night time to eat on flies and whatever, and insects. They're going to come out, and in the book, helicopters hit these waves of bats, can't see, and crash into canyon walls. So there's a lot more carnage takes place. The film, Arthur Hillis movie, doesn't take that stance. So it kind of leaves things, in a way, perhaps a little bit better. I don't know, because, as I said before, Stephen Macht's Walker Chi isn't a bad guy. He's not Murray Hamilton, as Mayor Vaughan in Jaws, as critics often cite. He's not. I know he wants money, but he's not trying to destroy lives. He's trying to save lives and trying to build up a community and wealth and prosperity for their combined peoples. He's moving with the times. He's not a bad person. Some of his tactics in the book, if I remember rightly, I think there is a bit of sort of like threat, and maybe, look, you can take out Duran, take him out if need be. But in the film, the Peabody Mining Company do say to Stephen Macht's Walker Chi character, look, we kind of need him, because we've almost convinced the elders that we could have done this. If the elders hadn't died in that bloody, with all the pneumonic plague down in the cave and they're doing the rain dance, if they hadn't died down there and the plague got known about, we'd have had them, but we almost convinced them. But now we need Duran to sign up, because once he convinces them, we're in the money. So everyone's working towards the right ends, but they've got the wrong. They're totally opposed in their methods of doing it. Nightwing, folks, is a slow, sedate, and talky movie. The bat attacks are few and far between. It's not gory. It's not violent. But you've got nibbly bits on the face. And you've got people getting crushed by vehicles and stuff. And there's a body count, certainly. And there's some suspense and some tension. But it's a great... At the turn of the 70s, you had this. You had Prophecy. You had many other movies which were like taking on the ecological stance. We're destroying the natural world. Jaws opened the floodgates for that. If we're involved in other animals, other species, environments, they're going to fight back. Especially if they've got teeth. They're going to fight back. And they do in these movies. Now, curiously, in a year or two after this, Michael Wadley from Woodstock fame made one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I've discussed it a lot. You guys, a lot of you have heard of me already. Wolfen. An adaptation of Whitley Strieber's tremendous bestseller, The Wolfen, which is a book that saw me through a very, very sick period of my childhood when I had severe bronchitis and could have died, basically. But this book saw me through it. And I'd only be about 8 or 9 years old when I read that book. And I read it, and I've read it over and over again since then. And I love the book, but I love the movie. The movie itself, Michael Wadley's adaptation of that. And I'd kill myself to try and get the 4-hour version of that movie, which sadly you cannot get. And it takes the same ethos as Nightwing. Native Americans driven underground, fighting back with curses, with superstition, with traditions, and the natural world fighting back. In Wolfen's case, it is a race of super intelligent wolves, but the Indians, the Native Americans, know about these, and with the Genocide Express of the whites moving in to North America and subjugating and completely eradicating nature, many indigenous species and the Native American themselves, they were driven underground and then would fight back only from underground and take out the needy, the sick, the homeless, the unwary, the only way of survival. And Wolfen is an incredible movie, but it does take that stance of the red movement, red exploitation, and I love it for that, and I love Nightwing for that. Nightwing is a film which I've got to really say to you, you cannot go into this movie expecting a balls out, tooth and wing horror movie. That's not what you're going to get. That's not the movie. It's not. The film has suspense and tension, but it's a character drama and it's a cultural drama, and that should not be ignored. It's very much of its time period. It's very much about the fight back for the ecology, the fight back for cultural survival amidst capital greed and commercialism. And those ethics have not gone. Those themes are still now massively prevailing. We haven't learned a damn thing. We're still destroying the world. We're still eradicating races, religions and creeds all over the world in the name of money, commerce. That's what we're doing. And the whole theme of the bats with the bubonic plague and the offshoot of pneumonic plague, which is easier to catch. So, and far more transmissible. We're in the realm of COVID and all of that shenanigans. So Nightwing has a new rebirth, a new life to hit us with, and I think it's great. And I love the fact that Eureka have brought this out. It's a film so neglected and often maligned, and it is. And don't get me wrong, folks. I understand a lot of people go like, "Oh, shit, that." When I saw it as a kid, I thought, "Shit, this is meant to be a horror film." The trailer makes it out to be a real horror, and it's so not. But for most of my life, I've adored tribal lives, tribal ways, and cultures, be it Viking, be it Celtic, be it Pictish, be it Native American. I love it. I adore it. I admire that. They don't abuse the land. They live in cahoots with the land. They don't destroy it. They don't spoil it. It's the rest of us that have done that, and we've done it for less than altruistic reasons. Let's be honest. So to see films like this come out and stake a claim and do it pretty well, and this film's well acted. Stephen Mack is brilliant. Again, he's not Native American, but he looks it, and so that works. And Nick Mancuso, Italian, and I think brought up in Canada as well, but then plays young man Duran. But you're not going to question it. He does look, sound and act purely, instinctively like a Native American. He has that, his voice is very cultured though, and it does smack of a very European sort of training. But that may be just me, I don't know. But I do like him in the role, and Kathryn Harrold I just simply adore. David Warner, he could just sit in front of me and just purr like a cat, and I'd watch it all day long. I think David Warner's outstanding. The bats are okay in close-up, they're great. The actual robotic bats are superb. So Nightwing, folks, Eureka's brought out a great addition there. It looks like old film. It's been restored, it's in high def, and it looks lovely, but it looks of its time. The soundtrack, Henry Mancini. Henry Mancini's score, you've heard it throughout all of this. It's so elegiac, so somber, melancholic, so spiritual, so very, very ethnic. It's beautiful. It's so not what anyone knows him for. I said before about Life Force, but the guy did cut his teeth working for Universal's horror movies and the Creature from Black Lagoon movies. He worked on the music for those. He didn't compose it, but he worked on the music for those. So he already knew his stuff. And he loved to get his teeth into this. Anyway, folks, I have literally prattled on for, well, it seems like bloody hours. Bloody hours. In fact, the sun, although it's quite high at the moment, it's going to settle soon. And when it does, that's when I go crawling down the outside of Kilt Mansion, downwards, to go and swoop out for prey. I go and find fresh bottles of whiskey, and I sink my lips around it. And then I lap luxuriously at the goodness. The weird thing is, I find that the reverse effect is how this anesthetizes me, and it acts as an anticoagulant as well. Anyway, folks, look. Eureka's double bill with Shadow of the Hawk, which I may cover at some point as well. Martin Cruz Smith's original novelization. Well, novel. The film's based on that novel, and it's a disaster story. It's not really a horror story. It's a disaster story. It got shanghaied into the whole horror sort of genre. But anyway, folks, for me and this gothic gang here of ferocious fly-by-nights, I wish you all a good night. I'm going to see you in the meantime, and the bat piss stinking in between time. Bats are just quintessentially evil, but they're so damn cute as well. I've spent an entire day in the bat cave in Chester Zoo with all the Rodriguez fruit bats. I've spent an entire day in there, and they are fabulous. I've held them, I've stroked them. They are good. Bats are phenomenal creatures. They're not evil, and they look great.